The Brabant Killers, also known as the Bende van Nijvel in Belgium, were a mysterious and violent criminal group that terrorized the country during the early 1980s. Their string of bizarre attacks, often targeting supermarkets and businesses, left authorities struggling to understand their motives and identity. Operating with ruthless efficiency and an unsettling level of organization, the gang's actions sparked widespread fear and led to one of Belgium's most notorious unsolved cases. Decades later, the mystery surrounding the Brabant Killers continues to fuel speculation, theories, and ongoing investigation. Join me as I look into the case of the Brabant Killers here on Corras Investigation. In 1981, there was a burglary at the Gendarmerie barracks in Etterbeek on December 31st that involved the theft of automatic weapons, ammunition, and a car. Items were later found in a garage owned by the Madini Bush. 1982, March 13th. A 10-gauge fowling shotgun was stolen from a store in Dinant, Belgium. Two men were seen fleeing the scene. May 10th, an Austin Alghero was stolen at gunpoint. This was one of the two incidents where the killer was seen without a mask. He also spoke French fluently. The car was discarded shortly afterward. A Volkswagen Santana was also stolen from a car showroom. August 14th, a grocery store in Maubeuge, France was robbed. Food and wine were taken and two police officers were shot and seriously injured. September 30th, a weapons dealer in Wavre, Belgium was robbed of 15 firearms. A police officer was killed and two others were seriously injured. December 23rd, a restaurant in Brussels, Belgium was robbed of coffee and wine. The caretaker was tortured and then later killed. 1983, January 9th. A taxi driver in Brussels, Belgium was robbed and murdered. The car used in the crime was later found in Mons, Belgium. On January 28th, a Peugeot was stolen at gunpoint. On February 11th, armed men robbed a supermarket in Rixensart, taking less than $18,000. Several people were injured but none were killed. Later, an Audi 100 with bullet holes from February robbery was stolen from a garage but was abandoned shortly after. On February 25th, another supermarket in Uccle was robbed, resulting in the theft of less than $16,000 but no fatalities. On March 3rd, an armed robbery and murder occurred in a supermarket in Halle, where less than $18,000 was stolen and one employee was killed. Then, on May 7th, a supermarket robbed in Houder for less than $22,000, again with no deaths. On September 10th, a textile factory in Temse experienced armed robbery and murder, with several bulletproof jackets stolen and a worker killed. A couple was murdered on September 17th after shopping at a gas station next to the store being robbed. The gang, after shooting two responding gendarmes, one killed and one seriously injured, escaped in two stolen cars. On October 12th, an armed robbery at a restaurant resulted in the owner's murder, although nothing was stolen. On October 7th, a supermarket in Beersel was robbed of less than $35,000, leading to one customer being killed. Finally, on December 1st, a shop in Andalus was robbed, resulting in the murder of a couple who owned it. Around €3,000 worth of jewelry was taken, and the owner was killed while attempting to defend himself. The gang left after destroying a surveillance camera and used a stolen Volkswagen with fake license plates. 1985. On September 27th, an armed robbery occurred at the Del Hayes supermarket in Rue de la Grenette, Belladeux, resulting in the theft of less than $6,000 and 3 deaths along with 2 injuries. Shortly after, another robbery took place at the Del Hayes supermarket in Brussels Steenweg and Overijse, where thieves stole less than $25,000, leading to 5 deaths and 1 injury. In response to these incidents, security measures were heightened across many stores in the area, including the deployment of armed guards. On November 9th, around 7:30 p.m., Another armed robbery occurred in Delhaize supermarket on Park Lawn in Ulst. The location was outside of the gang's usual area of operation. The gang attacked while an armed patrol was still present. A family of four encountered the robbers in the parking lot after exiting the store. Tragically, the mother and father and daughter were killed, seemingly without motive. The sole survivor, a boy, was shot blank range and was severely wounded. The robbery resulted in the theft of less than $25,000 and a total of 8 deaths with several other serious injuries. The gang was noted for their bizarre face paint and disguises, and they behaved cruelly, laughing and taunting the customers during the shootings. After the robbery, the gang did not flee immediately. The local police faced difficulty as many vehicles stalled upon arrival. The police van attempted to pursue the gang, which they escaped in their Volkswagen. On November 1986, items and weapons were linked to the gang's crimes were discovered in a canal. This raised disputes about previous searches of the area and led to investigations against officers for possible misconduct, although they defended the original search process. A burned out Volkswagen Golf resembling the getaway car was also found nearby, but the evidence suggested it had not been in the canal for a long time. How the operations went. The items taken and the things they threw away suggested that the gang members enjoyed shooting and were involved in drug dealings and burglaries, balancing their crimes with regular jobs like food prep or scrap metal dealing. This view implies that their crimes were mainly for money and grew from a sense of daring. However, some strange signs were also apparent. The money gained from the robberies was low compared to the high risk. Easy heists showed the lack of skill, and with the giant not wearing gloves and the killer and the old man being seen without mask during the robbery. A break in the raids and shootings happened, which then increased significantly in 1985 when a 9-year-old and others were killed for no reason. Firearms were especially important. They used rare buckshot that resembled what a previous Belgian Special Forces unit used. Some police noted that the gang's fighting methods were similar to police training. The cars, often Volkswagens, were modified and stripped of identifying features, suggesting skilled mechanics and a preference for Volkswagen parts. Getaway plans were well thought out, but the gang was often still present when police arrived. They likely had a helper during their last raid. In 1986, weapons and bulletproof jackets tied to the gang were found in the canal near Brussels, but the shotguns used in the shootings were never located. In 1983, authorities charged the gun owner and several men known as the Brains with the Brabant Killings, based on a weapon examination and a witness who have claimed to have seen a hidden Saab. Police mentioned they had obtained incriminating statements with guilty knowledge. However, during this time, the Brains went to detention while a double murder occurred at a jewelry shop. The case took a turn when it was revealed that the German ballistic report, which discredited the main evidence against the accused, had been hidden by the prosecutor. Consequently, charges against the Borains were dropped, leading to assert they were coerced into false confessions after 36-hour interrogations. A lead involved a Romani family member connected to the armed robbery who was charged as a Brabant killer. He claimed but later retracted that he took part in the massacres without his gang, providing no further details. The investigation faced many errors due to rivalries amongst law enforcement, including loss of crucial evidence and mismanagement by the original magistrate, which led to distractions from more viable suspects. Now we get into the theories and the suspects of the Brabant killings. The Belgian gendarmerie. Certain events related to the robbery of the Delhaize supermarket in Ulst on November 9, 1985, strengthened rumors that the gang had ties to the Belgian military and the gendarmerie. For instance, despite frequent patrols and gendarmes nearby, The supermarket was robbed and robbers were not pursued. Although no official proof exists of the connections, the unsatisfactory handling of the Brabant Killings case contributed to the Belgian gendarmerie's eventual abolition. There have also been suggestions of links to the Stay Behind network SDRA8, also known as Operation Gladio, but a parliamentary inquiry found no evidence of such connections to terrorism or infiltration by criminal groups. The 1992 BBC documentary Operation Gladio mentioned a supposed link between the Brabant Killings, Gladio, and a far-right group known as the Westland New Post, led by Paul Latinus, who claimed government sanctions for his organization. Speaking of which, the next theory involves the Westland New Post. In March 1981, Paul Latinus and members of the Front de la Jeunesse started Westland New Post, also known as the WNP, a paramilitary far-right group. This group was investigated after a 1980 incident where members shot a North African, resulting in one death and a national uproar. The shooter had ties to firearms enthusiasts and was a friend of the police officer Madani Bush, who later stayed in a property owned by the enthusiast after being released from a life sentence. The WNP included former members of the French terrorist group OAS and others who received firearms training in areas that later saw activity of the Brabant Killings. WNP operated secretly, and suspicions grew that its links to the Brabant Killings after former members reported being ordered to surveil security for targeted Belgian supermarkets. WNP had a real intelligence operative advising on covert methods and some NATO units trained in planning robberies. Michel Libert, a former second in command at the WNP, admitted to following Latinus' orders to gather supermarket information for potential robberies, but claimed not to know any other purpose of it. Marcel Barbier, a WNP member, was arrested on August 1983 after a shooting becoming linked to a double murder at a synagogue the previous year. Latinus informed the police about Barbier's involvement, which caused eternal conflict within the WNP as members felt betrayed. In 1983, some WNP members were convicted for operating an illegal militia and leading members into arrested for possession unauthorized NATO documents. Latinus committed suicide in April 1984, leading to his followers to form rival factions. Some believe these events relate to the Brabant Killings activities between December 1983 and September 1985, notably during the massacres of 1985. Barbier was convicted of the synagogue murders, and co-accused Eric Lamers was accused of the murder but received the prison time for other offences. Lamers fled after facing accusations of child-related crimes but was later extradited. He appeared on a Belgian TV show in 2014 alleging WNP members were involved in the Brabant Killings, leading to Libert's arrest. Libert denied the allegations but faced public accusations of being the giant leader, which he dismissed, claiming the accuser had mental health issues. Patrick Hammers and Madini Bush. Notorious criminals Patrick Hammers and Madini Bush, both now deceased, have been considered as possible suspects in the Brabant gang crimes. Hammers, known as the Giant due to his height, did not fit the profile of the Brabant Killings due to his less violent criminal record. Bush, a former gendarmerie and a gun shop owner, had a history of violent crimes and was arrested in 1986 for the murder of Juan Mendes. Mendes had featured that weapons stolen by the Bush were linked to the Brabant Killings. Although Bush was released in 1988, police found that he had related garages for storing stolen cars and weapons, some possible related to the Brabant Killings. Evidence such as TV remote controls that was going to be used for triggering explosions were found, which resembled Bush later extortion plans. While there was insignificant evidence connecting him directly to the Brabant killings, suspicions remained about his potential inside knowledge about the operations. Bush died in 2005 while working for a rental business owned by a past acquaintance. Modern inquiries. Most suspects in the investigation date back to the beginning and have been questioned multiple times over the years. Christian Bonkowski, a former member of the Gendarmerie Unit Group Diane, confessed before his death in 2015 to being the so-called giant. Investigators found a riot gun and ammunition labeled Gendarmerie Polite, which were possibly discarded by the Brabant killings after being stolen. Bonkowski was already considered a suspect in 2000 but had since been ruled out using forensic DNA and fingerprints. In June 2020, Belgian detectives sought information about a man in a photograph sent to the police in 1986, which showed him in a forest with a SPAS-12 weapon. The judge ordered this photo to be released. They also wanted to identify a man with a wine-stained birthmark who participated in a gang raid in the Delhaize supermarket in 1983. The statute of limitations extension for this case ends in 2025 when key gang members would be arrested in their mid-70s. The investigation was officially closed on June 28, 2024, but on January 28, 2025, federal prosecutors announced a new lead and ongoing criminal inquiries. Additionally, a civil party in the Mons requested to hear 2 witnesses from the Ulst attack in November 1985, and the appeal was approved. And so concludes the case of the Brabant killings, a vicious group that attacked many people, and to this day they are still investigating the case, which hopefully, maybe with a new extension, hopefully this case will be solved very soon. But yeah, that's going to do it. Thank you so much to everybody for joining. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a good one. Until then, peace and cheers.